Hi there everybody and welcome back to your latest news right here on the Toon Review. My name's Paul. Thank you once again for tuning in. I'm going to start this video today with some transfer news. Now, we know that Newcastle United are going to be bringing players in the summer. They've already said that. It's a well-known fact. But what kind of players are we going to bring in is the question. Are we going to look at youth? Are we going to look at first-teamers? I think it's going to be a bit of both. Now, we're already bringing the youngster from Malaga in, Cadero. Looking forward to seeing what he can do, but the rumours are that he's going straight back out on loan. Mitchell is now also looking at another Wonderkid, and that is Christian Cafane. Now, he is from the Cameroon, but he currently plays his football at Albacete in Spain. And he's on fire right now. 5 goals, 1 assist in his last 5 games. He is grabbing attention from all over Europe with the big boys all interested. He does have a £4.25 million release clause within his contract, so it's not a massive outlay. But Newcastle face a real battle if they're going to sign him because, like I say, from the Premier League alone, Villa and Manchester United have shown an interest. So have Bayern Munich, Borussia Dortmund, Inter Milan, AC Milan, Juventus, Barcelona. They're all mentioned as showing an interest in this kid. So that kind of gives you an indication of how good he is and how much he's wanted. And this is what Mitchell is good at. We know from previous clubs that Paul Mitchell has gone out and found absolute gems around the world of football. And he probably wants to do that at Newcastle United because it's not all about bringing in the big elite first teamers as well. He has to look at, upping the levels in the academy. We know that the academy has not been good enough for quite some time now. So it's all about bringing in the youngsters to force their way through and become first-team regulars at Newcastle United. Now, on the striker front at Newcastle, Cafane may well come in as a number 2 or number 3. He's got the first-team experience, but he's only 18-year-old. But if you're good enough, you're old enough, surely. Now, we don't know what's going to happen with Callum Wilson yet. There is rumours going around yet again this morning, yesterday, that Newcastle United have offered him a 1-year contract extension. I'll be absolutely flabbergasted if that's the case. I, as a fan, won't be happy about that. And it's nothing to do with Callum Wilson personally. Absolutely not. I think what Callum Wilson has done for Newcastle United since he's been here has been superb when he's been on the pitch. But I genuinely believe that it's now time to shake his hand and say thank you for everything you've done, Callum. Good luck for the rest of your career, wherever that may be. I don't subscribe to this rubbish about us signing him so we can get a fee for him. Because let's be quite honest, guys. What chief executive is going to look at Callum Wilson and think, yeah, he's worth that money. Let's go and pay it. You're not going to pay much for a player who has hardly kicked a ball in anger for so long and is a very, very injury-prone player. You're just not going to do that. So I don't subscribe to this that we're just signing him on just to get rid of him for money. Ridiculous. Just let him go and save on the wages for a start. But nothing against Callum Wilson. I just think, football is like a conveyor belt sometimes. You have to just keep moving on. You have to keep up with the times. And keep signing these players that have been here for years and years when we know that they're not good enough anymore is pointless. But, it's Newcastle's decision, I guess. We'll just have to wait and see what they do. But this Cafane kid looks like an absolute gem. Now, there's still funny stories going on about the status of Joelinton. Craig Hope reported this morning or yesterday that he had been advised to miss the rest of the season. The knee injury isn't serious, but enough to keep him out for the rest of the season, or advised him not to play for the rest of the season. The Chronicle have then come out since then and reported that Newcastle United still have hope for Joelinton to play before the end of the season. Now, are we risking Joelinton pointlessly? I don't know, because obviously we need him. If he's fit, we need him. We need him on the pitch for these games coming up. I don't think he's going to be fit for Brighton. He hasn't been seen in training, so I think we can rule Brighton out for certain. However, it does say that Newcastle United are monitoring him on a day-to-day basis, and if he is deemed fit, they will take him into consideration to play because of the importance of the games. Now, it does say that they won't take any risks on him. And I think that's, we need to learn lessons from taking risks on players. And Joelinton, of course, is one of those players who last season stayed on the pitch with an injury, came off and was out for a while. That happened a few times with certain players at Newcastle last season. We don't want to do that. We want to learn from our lessons. And I'm sure they will. But when you get this uncertainty from the North East journalists about, is he fit, is he not? We don't know where we stand. I'm hoping that somebody does pose the question to Eddie Howe tomorrow in his press conference, and he gives us an honest answer and says, look, he's definitely not going to play against Brighton. However, we are looking at him on a day-to-day basis. Let us know. Because Craig Hope said he's been advised not to play at all for the rest of the season. Yet the Chronicle come out and say that he's monitored on a day-to-day basis. So we don't know. We have no clue whether Joelinton is going to be fit or he isn't going to be fit. But look, whatever happens, Joelinton is a massive part of the midfield for Newcastle. And I've already seen fans this morning talking about who might come in as his replacement against Brighton. Of course, Joe Willock is not at the races at the minute. Lewis Miley doesn't play on the left, but could Bruno maybe move across and play then in order to bring Miley in? Sean Longstaff's been mentioned as well. I mean, look, it's a massive game at Brighton. It is massive. And Brighton have this hoodoo over us. We've never won there in the Premier League. It's a huge game. But we'll talk about that in the match preview, which if you're watching this on Thursday is at 7 o'clock tonight. That's live on the channel, so don't miss that. So at the moment, we're not sure on Joelinton, which is crazy. But hopefully we will get to know something from the manager tomorrow. Now, former Newcastle United manager Ruud Gullit has appeared on the Stick to Football podcast. It's a podcast I love watching, to be honest. It's got Ian Wright on there, Roy Keane, Gary Neville, Jamie Carragher's on there sometimes, Rooney, Jill Scott's on there. It's a really, really good podcast, and I like watching it. And it was interesting listening to Ruud Gullit and his time when he talked about his time at Newcastle United, because obviously it ended a very, very sour end, and of course we know about Sunderland. But when he first came into the club, there was a lot of excitement there. But he did say during that podcast that he didn't really want to go into management. Certainly when he was at Chelsea, he felt he was sort of forced into it, that he had to take the job. And then obviously Newcastle job came up, and everybody remembers the shop window and that said on Ruud Gullit's photo with sexy football and all that. It didn't happen. But he's gone on to admit that he knew his time was up midway through the defeat to Sunderland in 99. Of course, we know Kieran Dyer gave us the lead, but then the second half was just awful. Niall Quinn and Kevin Phillips both scored, and we lost the game. It was absolutely peeing down with rain, and it was an awful, awful occasion. But he said the Dutch legend had left Magpies legend Alan Shearer on the bench for that clash. Of course, Duncan Ferguson was also left on the bench, and the stories about them hammering on the door of the manager the next day. Shearer talks about it a lot when he thought he was first there and burst open the door, and Ferguson was already in there. Obviously, Newcastle lost 2-1, and it was Gullit's last game in charge. And then, of course, he was replaced by Sir Bobby Robson. Now, reflecting on his time, he says, we were 1-0 up against Sunderland and it was raining like hell. And then in one moment, they had a pass up front and the ball went in the pond. Everybody went past it and they chipped it out over the goalkeeper. Then you feel, okay, this is maybe not for me. I went to the board and said, look, I don't think this is for me. This is a very interesting point. But they begged me to stay. Freddie Shepherd actually begged him to stay, but he goes on to say that Freddie Shepherd and I became friends because of that. I said to him, look, I don't need the money. I just want to end the contract. I'm very thankful for what I could do, but this is not for me. This is not the way to do it. Now, I kind of admire Gullit for doing that, because I think, when a manager knows his time is up, we've seen managers stay at football clubs for way over the time. When we know that things aren't going right. Allardyce at Newcastle, Steve McLaren at Newcastle. Pardew started to go wrong for him. We all know when a manager's time is up. But some of them just stay on and think they can change it round when it's quite clear that they can't. Gullit's gone to Shepherd and said, look, this isn't for me. It's not working. Let's cut ties. He says, I knew that I could not change the environment in that moment. I was right because later they were relegated. I knew exactly what was going on, but I didn't have the power to change that. Alan Shearer, in that moment, he was not doing the things that we needed him to do to play, and he understood that as well. Alan is a great striker. I needed him to do a little bit different things to make it work. He was not informed well of the tenacity that I had from the beginning. Maybe that was my fault because I had to talk with him more and tell him what I really needed. The biggest problem with Newcastle is not everybody wants to go there. The biggest success they had was when Kevin Keegan was there. That was the best team that they had, but didn't win the league. But now they've won a trophy. I'm so happy for them. Now, I kind of disagree when he says about Newcastle being the best side under Keegan. That's been talked about a lot. But we've won something with this current squad, and surely that makes us better than the squad Keegan had. I'm not taking anything away from what King Kev did for the club, by the way. He did incredible things. But at the same time, Eddie Howe has now won a trophy. And, you know, the bunch of players that we have now are just fantastic. And hopefully we'll get even better moving forward. But it was a very interesting few comments from Ruud Gullit that he knew his time was up. That Freddie Shepherd didn't have to sack him. He was open and honest and said, this isn't for me. It's not going to work. And we since now know that obviously Alan Shearer and Ruud Gullit have buried the hatchet. They've talked about the situation at Newcastle and they're apparently good friends now. So things do change in time. Now, Trevor Senusi, the youngster from Newcastle who has made a few cameo appearances for the first team, has made his return from injury, guys. Finally, he's been out long term, but played about an hour for the under-18s against Leeds United. Eddie Howe's got a big decision to make on Senusi in the summer, of course. Does he send him out on loan or does he still involve him in the first team? There's no doubt that Senusi has a lot of talent. And he's been likened a lot to the skills that ASM had. And, you know, we all know that Senusi has these skills, but it's trying to hone these skills in and make him a better complete player. Now, the report says that Eddie Howe really does like Senusi and wants to keep him involved in the first team because he does believe that this player can be a future star for Newcastle United. But it's whether to send him out on loan to get first-team experience for a full season or something like that, and then bring him back and reassess him again. But it's great news that he's back from injury. It gives Eddie Howe maybe an option to put him on the bench in some of the final games of the season and possibly use him if we really need to go all out on the attack. But it's good to see Trevor Senusi back. But that's it, guys. Thank you very much for watching. As usual, let me know in the comments what you thought about all the stories today. Do you think Mitchell's doing it right by looking at youth and experience? Or would you rather he just concentrated on the first team this coming summer? Obviously, Joelinton, you know, would you risk him? If there's any chance he's fit, would you risk him? Knee injuries, really dangerous things to cope with. And of course, let me know what you think of Ruud Gullit's comments. But thank you very much for watching. Give it a like if you've enjoyed the video, folks. And of course, please do subscribe if you're new to the channel and you like what you see. Completely free to do so. But make sure you do hit the notification bell so you never miss an upload or a live show. And don't forget to check out the website, thetoonreview.com, for all your Toon Review merchandise. There's some fantastic stuff on there. Have a look, have a browse through, and get yourself something nice to support the channel. But thank you very much for watching. We'll see you very soon. Take care.